Now at 5, after a 2-year absence, Marion Days returns to Carthage. We'll take you there. Plus, authorities identify a man they say was killed by a hit-and-run driver. And a Russian court sentences U.S. basketball star Brittany Griner.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Marion Days is back. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. The annual festival had drawn tens of thousands of Vietnamese Catholics to Carthage every year through 2019, but it's been canceled the last 2 years due to COVID. KOAM's Amber Jenkins is live in Carthage with more on the return of Marion Days.
Everyone has something to celebrate here. Marion Days started back in 1978, celebrating the Virgin Mary every year on the first Thursday in August. Despite the 2-year hiatus, the spirit of Marion Day is still alive. The celebration lasts until Sunday, and the public is welcome.
Now when they come, they do have that spirit of a different one. I mean, I think it's a different one. I don't know how to express exactly the term for it, but I can see that they do have. Yeah.
Good. The celebration lasts today, and the public is welcome. Live from Carthage, Amber Jenkins, KOAM News.
All right, Amber Jenkins at Marion Days. Thanks. It's going to be hot weather for that festival. Doug Heddy joins us.
It is going to be, at least today, a little bit cooler outside compared to the past couple days due to a weak little front that slid in late last night into the morning hours. We actually got some scattered showers and thunderstorms out there late last night through the morning hours. Not much going on for us now. We're going to stay dry as we go through the evening hours, and you can see the triple-digit heat is now suppressed down into parts of Texas. So in return, we get the 90s. We're into lower 90s across the region. A little bit on the humid side, so our heat indices is a little bit higher. We're going to slide back through the 90s, 80s, eventually into the 70s later on tonight. Now it does start to heat back up just a bit as we go through the next few days. We're going to look at that and rain chances here in just a bit.
That's then. Authorities in Oklahoma have identified a body found along I-44 near the Miami exit last week. Authorities say the body is that of 53-year-old Richard Atchley of Chelsea, Oklahoma. An autopsy determined Atchley died when he was hit by a still unidentified hit-and-run driver along that interstate. The city of Joplin is considering its next steps following the failure of Proposition Public Safety this week. That proposal was to fund new wage scales for the police and fire departments through a property tax hike. The city manager, Nick Edwards, says listening and understanding what voters want is the next step.
So there's a lot of different concerns and different ideas that were posted and discussed as part of the lead up to that election. And so fully understanding that feedback and working on a plan to continue to improve our public safety services is what we'll do next.
Edwards says the city will have to make plans that voters would ultimately approve. A Joplin woman is trying to spread a message about common misconceptions concerning human trafficking. Angie Brower from RAFA International in Joplin recently addressed a UN delegation on the subject, did that remotely. She says many young victims get brainwashed and don't see themselves as victims.
These are my friends, and maybe even their trafficker pretended to be their boyfriend. That happens a lot. And they get these young women to fall in love with them. And if you would just do this for me, then this many times, then you and I can go make a life together. You won't have to do this forever. And that is how they get drawn in.
A national hotline seeks to help victims of human trafficking and provide information on the issue. You can get a link to that number at KOAMnewsnow.com. A Russian court has convicted U.S. basketball star Brittany Griner of possessing and smuggling narcotics, and the judge has sentenced her to 9 years in prison. Griner's lawyers had argued the Phoenix Mercury Center and 2-time Olympic gold medalist inadvertently packed the cannabis canisters. The verdict comes as U.S. and Russian officials are negotiating a prisoner swap. The Justice Department announced federal charges against 4 former Kentucky police officers over the botched raid that led to the death of Breonna Taylor. Deborah Alfarone has the latest from New York.
Breonna Taylor's supporters joined hands and cheered.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
The group reacting to news that 4 Louisville, Kentucky police officers have been charged with civil rights violations in Taylor's death. Taylor's mother said the day is overdue and painful.
Y'all learning what we've been saying was the truth, that they shouldn't have been there and that Brianna didn't deserve that.
26-year-old Taylor was shot to death in her own home in 2020 by officers who broke down her door, executing a search warrant.
This investigation has been going on urgently.
Announcing the federal charges, Attorney General Merrick Garland said Taylor should be alive today.
We share, but we cannot fully imagine the grief felt by Breonna Taylor's loved ones and all of those affected by the events of March 13th, 2020.
One of the 4 charged, Brett Hankison, was among the officers who fired shots that night. He was acquitted on state charges of wanton endangerment earlier this year. 2 others are accused of falsifying the affidavit to obtain the search warrant and attempting a cover-up. And the 4th is charged with making false statements to investigators. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump.
Because of Breonna Taylor, we can say this is a day that black women saw equal justice in the United States of America.
Taylor's death fueled racial justice protests across the country and the movement to hold law enforcement accountable. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News.
2 of the charged police officers have been fired before the DOJ announcement, and the Louisville Metro Police Department began termination procedures against the other 2 today. Still ahead, measuring car safety.
Some popular midsize cars aren't making the grade in new side crash tests. I'm Elise Preston with a look at the surprising results.
But first, the remarkable recovery of a child who spent 12 minutes underwater. That's coming up in Healthwatch. Topping today's Healthwatch, a study published in the journal Hypertension says healthcare providers should measure blood pressure in both of a patient's arms. They should then use the higher of the 2 readings to determine if a hypertension diagnosis is warranted. The study's authors said widespread adoption of the practice would lead to more people getting the treatment they need to keep their blood pressure within a healthy range. Another new study says primary care doctors would need more than 24 hours a day to follow every recommended guideline for preventative, chronic, and acute care. The analysis was done jointly by Johns Hopkins University, Imperial College London, and the University of Chicago. It found that an average primary care physician would require 26.7 hours to fully treat a typical number of patients. It said the workload can be reduced by employing more nurses, therapists, and other health professionals. And new research says getting a whiff of the great outdoors is good for you. That's no surprise. It said the smell of clean forest air triggers a relaxing emotional response in most people. A child spent about 2 months in the hospital after a boat crash threw him into the Mississippi River and almost killed him. Now he's back home in Red Wing, Minnesota. Reporter Adam Duxter was there to see the big welcome waiting for him.
If you're the type of person who doesn't believe in miracles, perhaps Vincent Koenig can change your mind.
His progress has been nothing short of miracles, from being able to learn to walk again, to feed himself again, to talk again.
8 weeks ago, the 5-year-old was fishing on the Mississippi with his dad and siblings when their boat collided with a barge. Vincent was underwater for 12 minutes before strangers spotted his bright orange shoes, pulled him to shore, and started CPR.
When we all went to bed that night, we had no idea if he was going to make it.
Vincent, after the accident, was intubated for 5 days. Once he started to wake up, we discovered that he did have a brain injury from the loss of oxygen.
And while Vincent's parents, Rachel and Jeremy, say they've long believed in the power of prayer, what they discovered during their son's recovery is the power of community.
It's really overwhelming and humbling, the amount of support that we've been given from our friends and people that we didn't know.
Making this moment.
To see him today, he's here, it's huge for us.
Miracle.
Oh, yeah, it's a miracle.
A chance to celebrate miracles and the people who make them happen, including the Good Samaritans on the water that day. Adam Duxter, CBS News, Red Wing, Minnesota.
Vincent's going to kindergarten next fall. Vincent's dad, Jeremy, says doctors initially told him that the recovery might take 18 months, but he says their son is a fighter who has never lost hope during this recovery process. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, mid-sized cars are put to the crash test. You might be surprised to hear the results.
Plus, the heat's going to stick around the next few days. We're going to look at that coming up. Well, it turned out to be a little bit cooler for us today. Temperatures closer to our average high for this time of the year, which is mainly into lower 90s. Quite a bit of sunshine after we had the scattered showers and thunderstorms during the morning hours, which was good. We needed some rain. It was somewhat widespread, which is always good to see. Not a ton, but at least a little, about 1/4 of an inch in Joplin puts us at 0.28 for the month. For the year, we are just shy of 30 inches. And as we go down the road, temperatures hot for the weekend. Rain chances back in Monday, turning a hair cooler. Of course, you can get my long-range forecast on my month-long blog. That is KOAM newsnow.com. But most of us are sitting into lower 90s, which is pretty good. We hit the mid-90s in our western counties. Once you push out into southeastern Kansas, a little bit of a humidity issue out there, so heat indices kind of upper 90s to near 100 degrees on the Kansas side. Looks good. 7th and range line currently sitting at 92. Westerly winds at about 10. It feels like 98. Humidity 48%. Through the evening hours, slide back through the 90s, 80s. Not bad tonight. Eventually, lower 70s for overnight lows. All right, scattered thunderstorms. So here's 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You can see this batch pushing south and east, but most of us at least picked up something across the region, which is good to see. Most of this was out of here by about 10 o'clock during the morning hours. Now we're pretty quiet. We have one little isolated storm in our far southwestern counties, but really any rain tonight is going to stay confined to our South Texas, parts of Arkansas. Still kind of dominated by this dome of high pressure. It's actually going to meander its way off toward the south and east of the region as we go through the next couple days. All right, let's go through time. I'm going to stop it tomorrow morning, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, temperatures into the mid-70s. Plenty of sunshine through the morning hours. We're going to warm right around 90-ish by noon, and then most of us are going to go upper 90s. We're going to have a few triple digits, especially in northeastern Oklahoma, but I think in general, most of us stay just below that mark. 94 by noon, high temp right around 99. Tomorrow night, we are going to get a few clouds in here, and you can see a couple isolated little thunderstorms try to pop up by Saturday morning. So I am going to put a slight chance for a few isolated thunderstorms Saturday morning, but I think Saturday afternoon, hot, humid, high temperatures right around 100 degrees. Heat indices climb a bit tomorrow. That's why we're under a heat advisory for tomorrow. Heat indices right around 105 as we go into the afternoon. Sunday, much of the same. Hot, dry, temps near 100, but we get a cold front that slides in Monday. So this is going to give us our next chance for some scattered showers and thunderstorms early next week. 99 tomorrow, 100 on Saturday. Slight chance for a storm early. Near 100 Saturday, mid-90s Monday and Tuesday. Then we start creeping back up, 98 Wednesday, 100 on Thursday, and then look at the heat really pressing in as we go into next week. And so no big relief, just kind of little lower levels of hot.
Yeah, they call it a cold front.
Yeah.
But come on, it's a slightly less intense
Pretty much.
heat front.
Yep.
Thanks, Doug. It's deja vu in Iceland, where a massive volcano is erupting once again, not far from where it blew last year. About 10,000 earthquakes ushered in the latest sound and light show just outside the capital city. Fountains of lava are shooting up 100 feet into the air, drawing thousands of tourists. Known as the land of fire and ice, Iceland has 32 active volcanoes. That's the highest number in Europe. Coming up, how mid-sized cars fared in new side crash tests. First, though, we take a moment to recognize a local veteran. Baxter Springs native Savannah Cotton joined the U.S. Army in 2006. She's been stationed in Korea with a medical command unit. Sergeant Savannah Cotton, a four-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, AAA says gasoline prices have fallen 50 days in a row after recently hitting an all-time high above $5 a gallon for regular. But the downtrend could face a number of challenges, including a decision by OPEC and its oil-producing allies to increase production in September by a slower pace than in previous months. In July, President Biden visited Saudi Arabia, which heads OPEC, hoping to improve relations and encourage more oil production. Pro golfer Phil Mickelson and 10 other players who joined the Saudi-backed LIV Tour are suing the PGA Tour. They claim the league broke antitrust laws by suspending them from tour events for playing on the rival circuit. 3 of those players are also seeking a judge's order that would allow them to play in the tour's upcoming playoffs. The PGA said it plans to fight that lawsuit. Walmart remains the world's largest company based on revenue. Fortune magazine's annual survey finds that the Arkansas-based retail giant tops the Fortune Global 500 list for the 9th year in a row and for the 17th time since it began ranking companies by size in 1995. The Saudi Aramco oil company claimed its title as the world's most profitable company with $105 billion in earnings. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety tested its next batch of vehicles against a taller, heavier, and faster barrier like the trucks and SUVs out on the road today. As Elise Preston reports, some of the most popular cars in the country did not fare so well.
Midsize cars struggled against the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety's tougher side crash test. The Institute put 7 popular passenger cars to the test, which is now a 4,200-pound barrier striking the driver's side at 37 miles per hour.
Part of our redesign of the barrier was to emulate the pickup trucks and the large SUVs that are out there in the real world that are the striking vehicles in many of these crashes.
In this test group, only the Subaru Outback earned a good rating. 3 cars received poor ratings. Structure was particularly compromised on 2 of those models, and in all 3, there was a likelihood of injury.
Either one or both of the female dummies' heads slipped below the side curtain airbag and struck the windowsill.
IIHS says one reason for the group's disappointing performance is the lower ride height. But President David Harkey is confident automakers will respond.
All of these vehicles had good ratings in our original side test. I have no doubt that they will get to a point that they will get them back to having a good rating in our updated side test.
The Institute plans to test smaller passenger cars and smaller pickup trucks to see how well they protect passengers. Elise Preston, CBS News.
Starting next year, a good rating is going to be needed to meet the Institute's criteria for top safety pick. Now to images the world has been waiting to see. The first grain ship to leave Ukraine since Russia started its war nearly 6 months ago. It's a crucial step in the worldwide fight against hunger. Last year, Ukraine provided 10% of all the wheat in the world. This ship is headed to Lebanon, carrying 26,000 tons of corn. Ukrainian authorities say at least 17 more grain ships are stuck in their ports blockaded by Russia since February when the invasion began. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, what's next for basketball star Brittany Griner after a Russian court gives her a 9-year sentence? Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to hear from a teenager attending Marian Days in Carthage. Plus, the Joplin School District puts the word out about a change in certification for substitute teachers. And the Pittsburgh American Legion baseball team plays in the regional tournament in Alabama. Stay with us, CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. It's hot out there.
It's been
hot out there. It's going to stay hot out there.
Pretty much. Temperatures creeping back up for us tomorrow as we go near 100 degrees. We do have a heat advisory in effect tomorrow because heat indices are right around 100. 100 for us once again on Saturday. We may get an isolated thunderstorm early in the morning, but yeah, heat sticks around.
Right around 100, sometimes a little bit below, but it doesn't really matter. Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. And of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. We'll see you then. Let's make it a great evening.